Awful Cruel Treatment by C.S.A. Turnbo. The following narrative of a band of robbers inflicting horrible torture on a citizen of Madison County, Arkansas during the Civil War was given me by Mr. Ben Hager, which he told in these words. A man of the name of John Sites, or Sykes as he was commonly called, lived some 10 miles northwest of Huntsville in what is known as the Barren Settlement. Some people called it the Calico Settlement. He lived near where a man of the name of Carlisle, a Methodist preacher, kept a store, or in other words, he lived close by where the town of Hinesville started up after the close of the war. Hinesville took its name from Johnny Hines, on whose land the town was built on. Mr. Sites owned a number of slave property and had accumulated a good sum of money. His wife was dead, leaving 5 children, 4 sons and 1 daughter. 2 of his sons were in the Confederate Army, and the 2 others, whose names were John and Richard, belonged to the Federal Army. Mr. Sites himself was a Southern sympathizer. His daughter was named Katie, and she was honest and trusty. She was 17 years old when the war broke out, and Mr. Sites, being convinced that the country would be turned over by robbers and thieves of all sorts, decided that he would turn all of his money over to his faithful daughter and let her take it and the slaves to the southern Texas. One night in the fall of 1864, a set of cutthroats rode up to the Sites house, dismounted, and went into the house and told Mr. Sites in a threatening way to give up his money. His answer was, "And if I don't, you devils," and they told him that they would make him do it. "Well," he said, "go to work if you think you can make me do it, you heathenish set of scoundrels." And without further words they proceeded to put their nefarious threats in execution, and they strung him up by the neck and let him hang a while and let him down. After he was able to understand what they said, they told him that they would kill him if he did not surrender his money. "Kill and go to the devil. You cannot get my money," he said. Then they strung him up a second time and let him hang a little longer than before, then lowered him, and after he revived, they said, "Now, give up your money." But he stoutly refused. The merciless men now informed him that they would resort to the fire, and they guessed he would yield to the burning. They tied his feet fast together and his hands behind his back. They took his shoes and socks off his feet, and when this was accomplished, the wretches picked him up and poked him feet foremost into the fire. And then they pulled him back and jabbed him into the fire again. They repeated this again before they desisted, but he resisted it all without yelling a least bit. They threatened to torment him worse if he did not hand over his gold, but he told them no, he would die first. The robbers were disappointed and tried the same means of torture over again, which was the most cruel than before, shoving his feet deeper into the fire, and continued their damnable work until the flesh of his feet burned to a crisp and the flesh on his legs were cooked halfway up his knees. During the awful suffering he was foregoing, he informed his tormentors that only one person knew where his money was, and that she was true and honest, and they would never come in possession of it. They burned him so horribly that he was more dead than alive, and thinking that he would die in a few hours, they left him. There were a few people living in the neighborhood, and one of them happened to pass by the house on the following morning, and on discovering his terrible condition, word was sent out, and some people that was left from the effects of the war gathered in and cared for him. An army surgeon who belonged to the Federal side was sent for, and he came and amputated both legs above the knees, and after long patience and suffering, he took a turn to improve and finally got well. He survived the war for 4 years, and soon after his 4 sons had returned home and his daughter had come back from Texas, he told them to make use of his money, and they invested it in goods and owned a store in Hinesville.